do more of those, and then COVID came along.
Yours?
And then we just
Missed
met.
the one. Middle school.
All down.
It's an interesting problem.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Does
That
it?
last
Yeah,
year.
and all the stuff won't tell me anything. First, like, we did this, we
Yep.
did this, I'm like, no, we didn't. I believe we're
Something like is like a total chatterbox. It's just like happy and smiling. Her hair is just going everywhere.
Would you with you guys?
Yeah, yeah.
She was from one day and she from me. She's like, I don't know with you. Whatever.
Well, just like, I want to go to grandma's road. That's where we're going. Like, that's where we go every time.
Yeah.
I was just curious if she said much because Bert usually doesn't say anything.
No, she doesn't. So it's opposite.
Yeah, yeah.
I got the water from myself at home.
Her hair's getting
Well, I
so
brought it to
so
myself.
cute.
We're cutting it.
Are ya?
Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should give her
Nice
birthday
call.
hair transplant. She said balls still.
Right. It's 7:06, we'll call this meeting to order. We have a quorum. I would ask for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Joe made a motion to approve the agenda, Erica seconded it. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor, raise your hand. Motion passed. Review of the board's common message. The Owens School District strives to provide an environment where students can be happy, healthy, and awesome in their educational pursuits. We believe that each student can graduate ready for college and/or a career. To do so, we will provide a safe, nurturing, and engaging learning environment that meets individual wellness, social, and emotional needs. Item number 5. Any members of the Owens Community District that would like to speak to an item on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 6. Presentation, Science Department.
All right, so Mr. Gaylor has invited us over here for the science, but we set up in this room for the board meeting, and we're going to walk across the hall for his experiment to see what they do in physics. So, we'll travel.
Are you? No.
What's that?
I feel you.
Oh, well, I got mine up.
Oh, yeah.
I'll kind of introduce these guys and then those guys do their training. Yes, Mr. Gaylor.
What we're demonstrating today is an example of an assessment we did for HSPS 2-3. That probably means nothing to you guys, but it's the standard for the NGSS standards of the Iowa Corps it's a scientific engineering project. So up until this point, they had been doing working on free fall and motion and things like that. And this is kind of a practical application of what we did in class. So the task was, to kind of give you the standard, is apply scientific and engineering practices to design, evaluate, and refine a device that minimizes the force of a macroscopic object during a collision. So basically what we're trying to do is they're trying to minimize the amount of damage that occurs in a collision. Okay, there's, when I do this for like conceptual physics, we do a foam protector case. So they make a foam case and then we drop it from like the height of the table. And I've got a old cell phone that we use and they drop it.
Just to say, maybe clarify that you don't
Yeah.
make them use their own phone.
No, I ask them if they want to, and some do, but most of them choose to use use one I have. I've got this old Samsung that just gets me into the ringer, it's never been broke, so. And so that's kind of where we're at. And the task that they had was, they're gonna design a device that's gonna protect an egg during a collision. And what they were done, I was gonna drop it from a ladder, so I told them we're gonna drop it from the height of, from the ceiling. I was gonna drop it because I'm ladder trained, so that's why I gotta do it, so. Then there were some other parameters that we had to fit, had to fill or fit. Another one was, they get a budget. So there were certain materials that cost more than others, and I'll let those guys go through what they did. And not only were they going to build it, they also had to drop it, and then they had to refund it. Okay? So that's kind of what they had. So I'm going to start with, he said, hey, who's going to go first, right? Yeah. All right, you want me to pull yours up, or you can read it? Right? Okay. All right. Go ahead, you're off and running.
So I started mine off with just styrofoam cup and some string and some paper to make a parachute, and it worked terrible.
Why?
Why? Because the parachute, I put straws in later, but it just didn't work at all. But it's still some things, still survive. And I looked around everybody else's ideas, kind of see on stuff. So after my first thing, I put paper on the bottom and cotton balls inside and egg. Goes inside here. Put 4 cotton balls. Got a can of same egg. That's one story.
We'll drop them all in, so you guys explain that, and we'll put them all. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, do I want to talk about your budget?
Oh. My budget's great, $59.
They were given $100. They were given $100 to spend, and they couldn't exceed that. So, like I said, different materials cost different amounts of money. Tape was free. What else did I say was free? Yeah, glue sticks, or glue, not the actual glue sticks cost money too. So they had to pay for that. They write out a check to me, not personally. But they had to give me, and then I gave them different kids.
So, at first I thought I was going to be kind of cheap with sneak class, and it definitely wasn't after I realized it, but I'd rather be safe than sorry and have the egg crack. It'd be great. That's pretty much it.
Dave, I'll put you.
So for mine, my instant thought was just like a basket with a parachute. The parachute, kind of everyone had a parachute, and that's kind of just to take some of the velocity away, so the impact isn't as great. And then the basket, I was going to trap the egg in the basket, so on impact it couldn't fly up and slide out. Then to absorb the impact, I brought styrofoam on the bottom. And to start with, this box was real tiny and the egg was kind of sticking out, so when I first dropped it, it flipped over, and luckily I had some more
Bubble wrap.
to kind of stop it from cracking, but I realized I just got lucky that time, so instead I built the walls up taller, and then I added bubble wrap on the very top of all these walls, and just put tape across it, kind of hold a plastic bag that has the egg on the inside. And I just hot glued all these walls together on the inside. I figured that would hold up better than tape in case of festival. My budget was pretty costly because the bubble wrap was expensive. It was $50. So I definitely
And why was bubble wrap more expensive?
because it's going to be more efficient in stopping that impact. And so I definitely didn't do the greatest on in terms of the budget aspect of it, but we got the job done. And I didn't have to spend anything extra.
All right, Ken.
Alright,
my design. It's basically just a paper cone with a parachute on top. So the main equation we were using during this would be that the force is going to be equal to the mass times the acceleration. So two ways to make it less force is less mass. So paper and straws are all pretty light, and then less acceleration. That's where the parachute comes in to slow down the acceleration. Then there will be less force in the end. So with this, I just had a parachute, and originally that wasn't working well. So I added some straws on the top. There's some cotton balls at the bottom of the cone that help absorb the egg, the shock when the egg hits the ground. And the first time that I dropped it, I didn't have these extra straws coming out of the side. And what happened is it hit the ground well, and then it flipped over, and the egg cracked just where that fell. So I added some extra straws that helped to keep that from happening. Buttons over here. 66 total out of hundreds of them that bad. The paper was pretty cheap, and eventually the straws just kind of started to add up, and I needed to add more stuff.
All right, ready? You guys got your eggs in there. Who's gonna go first?
Chef. Yeah, chef.
All right.
That's cool.
Oh, no, just all right. All right. So all we did was we just held it up here, and then I just kind of dropped it from.
Broke it.
Chop it. You know, just send it.
Okay, we'll try it. We'll see what happens.
Already out of
Science.
It's in a plastic sack, so that way if it breaks.
Well, examine it.
I'll let you pick that one up.
Check on your child.
Oh, yeah.
But that's the one thing we talked about is that even if it broke, it's still part of the ring, so it'll be fine because that was part of the standard. You just didn't design it and evaluate it. You had to also fix it, and that was one of the things that we talked about in class too. All right.
Books.
All right. Let's see. Oh. Is that the paper or is that the egg?
I don't know.
Watch out.
The parachute worked okay.
Oh, there's the paper.
Whoops.
I didn't mind. Got practice.
All right. If you want me to show you this,
I don't like eggshell. I got
Nice.
all right. And shoot that one's out. It's okay. Excellent. All right.
Excellent.
Does anybody have any questions or anything for these guys?
Any future engineers?
I have to a lot of bad problems. What was the biggest surprise? That my initial idea worked. As soon as I saw the idea, my name came out. I'd say probably like the amount of cushioning needed for the impact. I think a lot of people underestimated how much force just that little fall would generate. So not a lot of people put a lot of cushioning.
Also, you find that you'll encounter quite a few issues initially, but there's always going to be a solution, whether you have to go back and redesign a lot or there's just a couple of tweaks that you can make and your design work better.
No. I didn't mean.
I have a point of information question. So how fast do things fall?
10 meters per second squared is the rate of acceleration.
Do you guys start with, you calculate the force of just a standard, if you just drop an egg from that height, do you calculate what that would be?
I don't think you trust us.
I mean, I don't think anybody did. You know, nobody, you know, took that, you know, did start with that. But I think they just saw the paths and they just.
Sure.
They were so excited about it. Well, we agree with that, so.
Good job, guys.
Okay, we'll move on to public hearings.
Have none this month.
Discussion items, number 8, school calendar.
All right, so it's time to start talking about the 24-25 school year. The district leadership team annually, made up of our principals and representatives from every building as far as teaching staff, and they start working on the draft for this in November and December. They solicit feedback from the rest of the staff and then try to thread the needle every year on, you know, making the most agreeable calendar for everybody. This school year creates some peculiar problems. Number one, the Iowa Code restricts the schools from starting before August 23rd. So August 23rd this year is on a Friday, which is not a great day. We typically like to start on a Wednesday or Thursday, midweek, get a short weekend, and then come back for another, a full week the next week. And procedures have been established, but that doesn't happen this year. The other problem that creates is that it pushes the calendar back, 2 or 3 days. So everything kind of gets pushed back 2 or 3 days, and then as you roll through, that's August. September is fairly basic. You have Labor Day. We do a professional development on that Tuesday afterwards. Creates a 4-day weekend for families, and we've done it for 2 years now. It's very popular with teachers. They're able to start the school year and then come back and refocus academically on that Tuesday. We've had really good feedback on it. October, parent-teacher conferences. November, we end with Thanksgiving, and then this year with Christmas and New Year's falling on Wednesdays, it creates an environment where you don't have to do 2 weeks, but 2 weeks is, it's hard to, again, you come back on Friday the 3rd, you come to school on the 23rd and then get out the 24th, so it just makes sense to do 2 full weeks. So 2 problems now. You have a late start because of the Friday start versus a midweek. That's 2 weeks. And then in a normal year, you typically have a week plus 3 or 4 days. So you end up with a 10 or 11 day winter break. Well, 2 full weeks, you have 14 days. So now that pushes it back further. That compounds. And then you have MLK Day in January, President's Day off in February. We've been adding to spring break every single year. The DLT elected to go with a little bit shorter this year because we don't have a ton of room with those days getting pushed back further and further. The staff voted. They got the DLT asked all the staff to vote on different things. There was 160 responses out of the 217 employees, which we think was pretty good. And longer spring break or longer Christmas break, 50-50. It was exactly 80 to 80 in terms of what the staff would prefer in terms of having breaks. I think it was just wild statistically that would happen. Easter's really late this year, or in 25. It's got to be almost as late as it can possibly be. So Easter will be on the 20th. So we take Good Friday off. That's a contracted handbook policy or holiday for staff. We utilize the Monday after that for a teacher quality day, so no school for kids. May is pretty traditional. Commencement ends on the 18th, and then we try really hard to end school before Memorial Day. It's tough academically for kids to come back after Memorial Day and have it be a useful spend of time. So it's about as tight as it can possibly be. There's not a lot of room for error. One day here, one day there, and it creates a ripple effect in all kinds of directions. So this is the proposal. It looks almost identical to this year's calendar, other than we're starting a little later in the week than we'd like to. Christmas break is a little longer than it was this year, and we pulled one day back from spring break. And that really is just to help with the balance of how all those days fall. We've had a lot of really good success with our calendar over the last few years. I know school calendar conversations in some districts can get really contentious. We've done a good job of soliciting feedback. We do a good job of communicating these things. We put the draft out to staff and let them comment on it. We've been really successful with it. And at the board table in the past few years, there really isn't a lot of want to do one way or another. We are required to have a public hearing on it. We're required to publish it. Traditionally, this is our path. We start working on it November, December, bring it to you guys in January as kind of a rough draft. We publish it, and then we have a public hearing on it in February, and we vote on it in February, and then that's kind of when it's essentially set in stone. This year we have a problem. Maybe it's a blessing. There's talk of the Iowa legislature is going to amend the law that lets us start school on the 23rd. And the reason the 23rd was picked was because it was a day they calculated that would never fall during the weeks of the state fair. And there's talk now about just doing away with the language of the 23rd and just stating you can't start school until the Tuesday following the state fair. So whatever that Tuesday is, that's when you can start school. I think everybody's kind of conceded the fact that the state fair is going to win the argument of start school versus that. Okay, it would be really preferable for us if we could start school on the Tuesday or Wednesday and have the choice of what's best for us, or maybe even Thursday, but we get the choice and we don't have to worry about the 23rd being the magic date. So, I think if that happens, we would, as quickly as we could, amend our draft to maybe get a little bit more breathing room. So bring it to you guys just for general thoughts or feedback. I'm inclined right now just to maybe hold off and see what happens in Des Moines. I think we'll have a better idea in the next few weeks if if that proposal has legs, and if we need to just punt a month. There's no rules that we have to do in February. It's just what we normally do. We can do it in March. We can do it in April. We could do it in May if we wanted to. Obviously, the sooner the better, so families can plan and get things on their calendar. I know people like to look at it and kind of get things figured out. So those are just my thoughts. That's the calendar proposal where we're at. You guys ultimately have the final say. So, any general thoughts I can take back, or like what you see?
I like how you did Christmas and spring break. I don't think there's any other way to do it.
Yeah, it really is. You're kind of pinned in there. Okay.
We'll move on to a couple of final proposals.
All right. Last month we went through the survey results of what you guys wanted to maybe look at in terms of spending money out of our Save and Pepple Fund. So, based on those survey results, I had gone through, I tour every building with the building principals. I meet with our maintenance department and with Haley Roth to talk about needs. And Michael and I sit down then. If you've been in my office at all for the last 4 months, there's like this, my whiteboard's full of ideas. There's lots of chicken scratches, things crossed out, budget, proposals, and just looking for feedback. So this is kind of the phasing in as we prepare for our FY25 budget process. This is our first big pot of money that we try to secure and map how we're going to spend it. The good news, at least this year, there's a lot of it's already been mapped. Right? There's a lot of restricted things in here already that have kind of already been decided that we'll kind of push through. So we estimate that we're going to bring in $2.2 million in revenue. This is conservative. I have absolutely no doubt that we'll hit that target. This number up here is what these all add up to. That's the sum, and then that's the difference. So right now, this proposal is a little high compared to what we think we'll bring in. We'll potentially have a little bit of extra carryover from this year that we could use to capture that extra $70,000 that we would need. There are some things in here we could cut out if we need to, and we could bring in more revenue. Sales tax could go through the roof, and we could bring in an extra $300,000-$400,000, and this number is now obsolete, which can happen. So you know where all the money goes and what we're proposing. The first $1 million or so pays for the bond payment. That pays for Winks Park in this room that we're sitting in right now. We have a copier lease that we pay to Access Systems. We budget for marketing in our communications plan every year. River Hills, we pay for utilization of that space to send kids down to Cedar Falls. We budget every year for our gym floor. 3 gym floors have to be buffed and refinished. We can pay for some software, specifically Time Clock Plus and SUI, which is our software that Michael does all of his financial accounting on. And then it also tracks all of our leaves. And we do there's some HR modules that we utilize to track our employees. The tech contract's an interesting one. We currently have an agreement through PEPL with the AEA to pay for our second tech position. But if the AEA is restructured, this is one of the things on the chopping block. So we would no longer be able to utilize that. We essentially save some money by doing this. It's not a ton. We maybe probably save $10,000 maybe by having this agreement. We still need that person. So if this goes away, we have to figure out where else to park that money. But it obviously comes out of this budget or this pool of cash. We have kind of some random rental things that we have to pay for, so we park $10,000 in there for that. These up here they're broken apart from the ones below because these are pretty much already accounted for. Just to keep the tech up to date, switches, our fiber backbone, iPads, computers, all the devices, and then all the devices that kids have. And we're converting from iMacs to Chromebooks to save a little bit of money. But any given year, this number can range between $200,000 and $300,000. So our tech department's really good about wherever we land, that's what they will make work. So there is some flexibility there. One of the highest priorities from the board year over year is to continue investing in our roof and our tuck pointing infrastructure. So we continue to spend anywhere from $75,000 to $100,000 on an annual roofing project, which is nice because a whole new roof for the high school complex costs $1 million. So if you got to save or figure out how to use $1 million in a given year, that means you're not spending very much money anywhere else. So this has been the pattern that this district has used for the last 20 years. It's worked really well, and I think that we continue to do it. The concrete, this is to finish paying off the high school and to pave and then do that job. So it's pretty much already spoken for. Those contracts are out there. The lights, you guys agreed to last month to do the lighting project from the high school all the way up the road and up to the middle school, which definitely needs to be done. We have a bus budgeted this fiscal year. We're being told right now they're anywhere from 18 to 14 months out. So in the next few months, you guys are going to see a proposal to buy a bus for FY24, but we will not expect delivery until sometime in FY25. So that $120,000 will carry over. You'll see it in the carryover budget, but it's essentially just moving from FY24 to FY25. So we'll capture it. These numbers at the top will change to capture that $120,000, but it'll be spent out. So it's just money in, money out. We spend about $300,000 a year just on general repairs, things that pop up, fixing air conditioners, geothermal systems, lights, stuff that breaks. And these bottom ones down here, this is stuff that we're just kind of talking about recently, and based on your guys' feedback, were higher priorities. So when we did the LED conversion in the entire district, we spent $300,000 to convert the entire district from fluorescents to LEDs. Parkside was kind of on the way out, and we were going to sell the building. We've now started utilizing Parkside, and the students we have in that building is growing, and so it kind of been left to deteriorate, and so we're having to invest some money. We've had to put about $30,000 of work into the HVAC to get some of those things working. We installed new water softener this year. We're having to do some plumbing work. The water was rusty, so the next phase would be to get LEDs in there so it's more cost effective and more energy efficient. I would expect next year we should probably talk about windows and maybe doors, just again, more energy efficiency. The roof's good, the building's strong, it's got terrazzo flooring, so it's a great building. It just needs some investment because as we have updated things around the district in the last decade, Parkside's kind of been left out, and so we got to catch it up so that it's at the same par as the rest of our buildings. Middle school walls and floors continues to be a high priority from the board. There's an item on the board agenda a little bit later that's going to specifically address this. $50,000 would not even address the floors and it won't address the walls, but it gets us a start. The floor is in the entryway of the middle school, is at the end of life, and we have a broken wall right outside the office. So right when you walk in the building, the floor and the walls need to be addressed. So $50,000 will take care of that, and then that'll let us in the years following get into the classroom wing to the east side of the building, where the numbers will significantly go up. But we'll have the ability in our budget. The concrete stuff will be done. I expect anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000 a year we could set aside to start really tackling some of those projects in a serious way. Our weight room floor is at its end of life. It is becoming unsafe, and so still waiting for a bid back. The guy that came to bid that was here in December. Still haven't seen a bid on that. Our library furniture, we call it library furniture. This is the bookcases. So the bookcases in the high school library are out of date and also at their end of life. And so just looking at having a conversation with some suppliers about what would it look like to bring in new library shelving and produce a facelift to the library that is definitely overdue. That $100,000 is like just throwing darts at a wall. That could be a $200,000 project. It could be a $50,000 project. We don't know yet. We parked $100,000 in there as a starting point. And if you guys look at this and you agree, we'll start getting some more serious estimates on what something like that would look like. We have some geo leaks at the middle school that need to be addressed. We think $25,000 to $30,000 will take care of that. There's a crew coming in May to do a final test of which loop needs to be fixed, or they can actually just like leave it, no longer utilize it, and just put all the resources into the other loops that are currently working. Or they could add a loop. So we'll have a definitive answer on what that looks like in May. Tough to do it now with the snow. And then we'll have to have a conversation, oops, that went away, around our snow removal contract with Shields, if we want to continue that after this year. Right now, we're looking really smart for having it, but we'll see what the rest of the winter does. They were pretty vital this last week, on making sure that we were unburied. So that was a lot. Any thoughts, questions, concerns? Not approving anything tonight. Again, you guys always get the final approval on every one of these items individually as they come up. But this just gets us in the right direction as we start to put together our final numbers for budget season.
I got thinking last week, we had 3 snow days.
Yes.
Is to have virtual days, would there be infrastructure required for people that don't have, internet at home? They have a hotspot they could take home, or is that something to be capable? Do we need PEPAL money for?
The bigger burden with a virtual day is the requirements that we have for special ed students. So with nearly 20% of our student population being special ed, you gotta have a plan for students to access their education, and you have to have a whole separate plan to access students with special ed to access their specially designed instruction. There's a whole different threshold of what they need and what has to be delivered. So let's say you have a student that is in a level 2-3 classroom that, is just like working on being functional, and we have to have a plan to provide them education, just like we have to have a plan to provide, one of those physics kids at the high school who can go home and sit on a laptop and probably get their homework done. So we have that capacity, the capacity to deliver education to some of our most needed students. I don't know that we have it, and I really think that schools that are doing so are doing an injustice to those kids. And I think that burden falls on us to figure out what that would look like if we want to utilize what that looks like. We do have the infrastructure. So we have the computer technology, our staff has computer technology, we have the computer backbone, everything locally that we would need. How many MiFis do you think that we own?
Probably 20 to 40.
Yeah. So
somewhere in there.
Yeah, we have U.S. Cellular hotspots that we bought during COVID, and just you can keep them forever. You just got to turn them on, turn them off, and we have a U.S. Cellular account that we can turn them on, turn them off. Connie, how many do you think we have employed right now?
I think I have 7 out with online accounts.
So, that's just online kids that they're committing to going to a virtual environment that we provide internet for them. I don't know what it would look like for our gen ed population to have access to internet or that requirement. We probably have it in terms of investment. Really the bigger burden is the human capital, trying to figure out what all that looks like and to make sure that you have a quality product at the end of it. Yeah. There's a lot more that goes into it, I think, than a person would realize in terms of delivering a virtual education. Any other thoughts or feedback on the budget, kind of the plan? Things you were hoping to maybe see, things that are on the list that you think are foolish. Nothing offends me, especially when it comes to this stuff. Everybody's got priorities, and it's just a matter of trying to figure out what the priorities of the board are, what the needs of the district are, and trying to mesh those things together.
If you don't have anything, we'll move on to item number 9. Thank you, Josh. Consent agenda. Pretty standard here. We did add, Jen Berry's here.
requesting a leave of absence so she can student teach. So you'll see that that's in there. We added the letter. Looking for your approval tonight that letter be delivered to Jen, giving her the opportunity to keep her job, but also go student teach. So hopefully the board's had a chance to look at that. Everything else is pretty standard for consent agenda, so I recommend approval.
I move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Phil made a motion and Taylor seconded to approve the consent agenda items as presented. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Motion passes. Move on to item number 10. Proposal from Envision Architecture.
So this is I had an opportunity to meet with Kate Payne, who was the lead architect that designed the space that we're in and Wings Park. I think as a district we were really happy with. A couple years ago, they designed virtually through COVID. They had a lot of input from stakeholders, and they delivered an exceptional product. And they were responsive to the needs that we had when we had them. So I was very happy with their performance. I brought to Kate the problem that we've talked about for a couple of years now of the middle school. We don't have a ton of capacity to do a full remodel. We might have to phase something out. We might have to take $300,000 and spend that amount over 5 years to be able to get the results we want. But we need to have like a master plan of what that process would look like. And so Kate threw back to me what they call a proposal in a day. So they bring in a team and they do a walkthrough of some spaces that we identify as potential problem areas. And that can involve some stakeholders. I would suggest a couple of the board members be a part of that, maybe some administrators, some teachers, and they're kind of part of a planning design experience. So they do a walkthrough, and they kind of figure out the needs that we have, the problems we have, the questions we have, and then they go to the drawing board and they kind of sketch some things out using their software, their knowledge. They do some very big, broad estimates of cost and process and phasing, and then they come back to the table and they propose it to the group as kind of like, this is what we think would be a solution for you to address these problems and the time that it would take. You can do it over a couple days. You can do a preliminary meeting, they go back to their office, and then they come back and then meet with you a second time. Or you can do it all in one day, where they bring the resources here, you spend some time in the morning, they spend 3 or 4 hours during the day kind of working on their stuff, and then you meet at the end of the day again. And so the value I think that this has, and why it excites me, is that when I started in 2017, we put together a facilities committee. It was Bob and Charlene, it was some local contractors, some parents, and some staff members. And they created a list, and on that list there were like 15 pretty big items. And over the last 7 years, that's been our focus, is finishing literally everything on that list. So science labs, remodeling Wings Park, high school parking lot, the hallways and entrances of our buildings, creating safe and secure entrances where we have where you have to walk into the offices in every one of our buildings. All of that was part of that process, and it gave the board and me a lot of direction, so that you don't have to sit and argue about stuff necessarily. It's just a comprehensive plan, and it was fruitful. That plan is done, and we're kind of not really anywhere other than we have some priorities that you guys have kind of discussed. So this would give us a new launching pad over what can we accomplish in the next 5 to 7 years. We have a limited budget, limited resources, but what can we do with it? And I guess I'm asking and suggesting that we bring in Envision to kind of help lead us into that. And that would give us an opportunity to bring in experts that we already have a relationship with, that already know our spaces, get an opportunity to work with new board members, and and myself and some stakeholders, and then kind of put together direction, and then from there we start talking about it and we start moving. The nice thing is that this would be, that there's nothing for this year, really nothing for even for FY25. As you looked, FY25 is already kind of spoken for. This is just the conversation, the planning. Wings Park, it took us 2 years to talk about and get ready for, and hire an architect and engineers and design, and then deliver a product that's really good. And so I think we're just at that point where it's time to start that process all over again. Total cost. Probably wondering that I should have scrolled down here. Maybe I should have led with that. $5,000 to $7,000 is total cost for these services. They would bring in a couple architects, probably an interior designer, and then they have some commitment, time and resources. What did we spend with Estes when we did the facilities study? Remember what that one was?
I'd say it was around 10.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
So, it's in the ballpark of what we spent before for these kind of professional services. Estes Construction did a facilities planning guide for us, so they kind of did the same thing. They come in, though, without you, and they look at all your facilities, and they determine what's end of life, what needs addressing, what's out of code. It was about $10,000 for that service, so this is in the ballpark of that. Any questions?
Nothing here would be proprietary,
Correct.
so we could take it to now Boyd Jones.
Yep.
And have them take a look at the proposed numbers.
Yep. You could take their ideas in there and go to you could open it up and say, we want to interview 4 new architects, and this is what we want, and then whoever you hire, and it's not them, go design this and give us a bid. So yeah, we would own all that and have the ability to do what we want with it. No other questions? I would recommend approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposal for the Envision Architecture Initiative plan today.
I'll second.
Erica made the motion and Nate seconded to approve the proposal from Envision Architecture for the plan in the day. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes. Item B, first reading of board policy 807.1, early retirement.
All right, we met last month and kind of proposed. We've gotten some feedback from some staff members that were maybe interested in having an early retirement package put together. We had discussed potentially the need in not FY25 but FY26. We're going to have a big graduating class this year. We'll have another big graduating class next year. We have a slowly growing group of teachers that are eligible for retirement. Was 11 the number?
Yeah, 11. That would be under age 65.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so 13 total.
13 total. Yeah.
Okay, so we have 13, which accounts. So that's 10% of our overall eligible teaching staff that would currently be eligible for retirement. So the conversation stems from you can save money in your general fund by having someone retire and replacing them by somebody cheaper. You can not replace them and then realize the cost savings of that person not being on your staff. As we studied the list, there are only a couple of areas currently of the staff members that are currently eligible to retire that we could really look at cost savings. So we have 17 sections at Wings Park, and could you reduce to 16? Potentially. Class sizes at the next year's 4th grade level would be a little bit higher, looking at 23, 24 students per grade level. Not ideal. I promise you would get feedback from the 4th grade staff next year if we go to 4 sections. So be prepared for that. But that's about the only place you can really realize a reduction. As you go through the list, You look at having to hire a math teacher. We gotta replace a math teacher. There's a science teacher on there. We've got to have the science teacher to be able to teach science. So that person's got to be replaced. Special ed, we got to have Spanish. We have to have industrial tech. We have to have. So the concept of offering it and then reducing staff is maybe pie in the sky a little bit. That we may not be able to realize what we potentially hoped that we could realize with a reduction in force, so to speak, through retirement. I'm not 100% convinced that we're there yet. The other side of the argument is we're still in a crisis of a teacher shortage, and I don't know what it looks like to replace some of these folks. We have some quality teachers, exceptional teachers that are on this list, and it would be hard to find comparable replacements. So that's kind of my narrative on the whole thing. We still went through. I did some work on the policy, updated the dates. As a board, you have capacity to adjust this. So you could say, well, we only want 2 people or 3 people to retire. So you could adjust this to say 20 years of experience to be eligible. So you would take that list of 13 and you would squash it down to like 5. So you have capacity to do that. Applications and stuff, just updated the dates on those. You have the ability to limit the number of retirement participants. So this is our old policy. We said 7. You could change it to 5. You could make everybody in the pool eligible. The district talked about its need of having 6 certified teachers and 1 certified administrator retire. We don't have any eligible administrators currently, so that would be redacted. But otherwise, the process of approval would go through seniority. We still have to figure out what our monthly cost would be, but you're looking at closer to like $775, maybe even $800 potentially of what the total outlay per person per month over the next 5 to 10 years would be. Total cost to the management fund annually, you're looking at needing to levy an additional $100,000 roughly to $140 to be able to do this, which is a pretty significant burden to our tax levy. So, all things being what they are, I don't know that you have to do it right now. And Michael and I've spent a lot of time crunching the numbers, looking at policy. Ultimately, the decision is yours. We'll support whatever you want to do, but I don't know that we see it as a necessity right now. I would like to have another year to study this and to look at where we're at with our actual enrollment and what the actual impacts of FY26 would be. So, any thoughts, questions on this?
I'd like to push it down the road 1 more year too, see what it looks like this time next year.
Anybody gun ho for it? Like, let's do this.
Well, you're not recommending it.
I don't feel like I can make a recommendation today that it is necessary.
Is there a motion on the table? Anyone want to make a motion, or should we just proceed on to our next item? Not hearing a motion, we'll just move on to item number 11, district level reports. Michael.
All right. Just pretty short report here. So January was closing out the calendar year, so all the stuff that comes along with that. And as I always say, thanks for the resources with that. So software, as Mr. Aaron was pointing out there, that's budgeted for in Save and Pebble, and it really does help make that efficient and quick. In terms of focus, now it turns to budget. We got a little teaser of it today with tonight with the Save and Pebble talk. There's a few things that have to happen here over the course of the next few weeks before we bring you kind of the preliminary talk, budget primer or whatever you want to say. That'll happen in February. There will be a discussion item on it. The budget software itself has to open up. That'll open up here probably around the 1st of February. It'll probably work about the 8th of February. And then we'll work on, reading the tea leaves in terms of what the legislature is going to set the SSA rate at, and making sure that we're in line with the guidelines, and put the projects in there and see how the tax rate falls as a result. So that's it.
Any questions? Thanks, Michael. Josh?
Not a ton to report. Since I met last, it was a nice winter holiday. Took a couple days off throughout there and just spent some time at home. Didn't travel anywhere. Just kind of took a siesta and cleaned and organized the house and hung out. And then having some snow days. Been able to work from home a little bit and also get into the office. It's really crazy how much stuff you can get done when people aren't like calling you or disrupting you and need to get stuff done. Unless it's your kids who are you working? Are you working? Yes, I'm working. Leave me alone. I'm about bad as Michael.
Right? Just about. Yeah.
So I do want to share this with you. I think this is kind of a cool graphic. So yesterday, we had our staff in for CPI and then Chapter 103 training. So Chapter 103 is state code on seclusion and restraint. So I presented this data to the faculty. Pretty positive news. We still have some work to do. I kind of put it to the staff that we'd like to see less than 20 per semester. So that's, a lot of our high-flying behavior kids, ones that are very disruptive, having to be removed from class or moved into a think room, that kind of thing. This also includes our Odyssey program, which is our students that we maybe in the past would have sent to the Lead Center. 8 students there currently. So it's a high and growing population, and one that you would say is ripe for Chapter 103, seclusion and restraint. So the fact that our trend line, you see where we started at 65 in one semester, and then we've made significant improvements. Last spring, we hit 23, which is a really big improvement, and we were going in the right direction. We got a few challenges in the elementary right now that we're working on getting solutions on, and hopefully we'll get those squared away, and we'll see continued reduction. That trend line isn't going in the direction we want to see it. Ultimately, we never want to put hands on a kid, and so it's going in the right direction, and really proud of the staff for doing the work. It takes a lot of patience, it takes a lot of strategy, it takes a lot of tools in your toolkit to take a kid who's in crisis and to de-escalate them, to bring them down, to redirect them, to get them going back on track to what they need to do without putting your hands on. And it's just something we're continuing to work on and get better at, but I thought that was kind of some interesting data. And then this is also the time of day that it happened. So we have 187 data points currently in our data tracking system for this. So that big tall one is 10 o'clock. The one in the middle that's really low is noon. So kids don't want to get in restraints or get taken away from lunch. So shocker, just feed them, right? We could have them go, all of them go down. But there's a lot to say that at that time of day they are maybe hungry. It's our most restrictive part of the day when our heaviest academic things are hitting, and so those kids are struggling the most, or maybe kind of pushing back on the system a little bit in terms of, I don't want to do this, so I'm going to throw a fit, and then things escalate. So anyway, So I shared that with you. I thought it was interesting. Other than that, I don't have much else to report.
Okay, thanks, Josh. Is there any questions for Josh? Sorry.
How did Mazda handle it then?
Oh, Mazda was great in the storm.
Just wondering.
Yeah. There's, a couple years ago, I did get stuck in a snowdrift, and Kevin Minton had to come pull me out. It was like 12 feet from the office, so I didn't quite make it in. I have a picture of it. It's good.
Did you have to put it on the truck, or could the two of you just lift it up and push it out of the way?
We hooked it up. Yeah. I think it was just for fun of doing it. I think we probably could have pushed it out.
Okay, we'll move on to reports on issues impacting education in the district. Mr. Cannon.
Josh, I just shared it with you. I'm not sure why it's not linked. It's the same link as the other ones from before, but that'll be at the top of your inbox. So while he's pulling that up, shout out to Nathan Westendorf. Obviously, Mr. Ian alluded to some of the snow days and the weather, and so he's been having to run around like crazy trying to find us transportation for all of our activities for this rest of this winter. So I want to thank him for doing his due diligence and trying to find us rides to where we need to go. Not an easy task with things changing day to day, so thanks to him. Like Mr. Ian and like the rest of us, our athletes and our students that are participating in activities got a few days off over break. They get 5 days of no contact around the holidays. Each coach can kind of set it, but most of them, you know, when they leave for break, and then whatever that 5 days is up is, you know, their kind of time off. So I think that's a really awesome thing for our kids because the winter season can be quite a slog, and so I think all of them were pretty appreciative to have a few days off, just unwind. Another kind of cool thing is we've picked up a few wrestlers as we have gone on throughout the season. Actually, Hayden, that was in there for the blonde-haired kid during the egg drop, he actually joined wrestling here about 2 weeks ago, which is kind of cool. That's usually not very typical. Basketball records at 3-7. I got a nice win before break against Waukon. I always like seeing us beat old NEIC opponents. I coached in Owine during a drought of a long time where we struggled to get a win against any of those guys. So it's always cool to see us pick up a win. Kyle Sauser's having a heck of a season. Dang near averaging a double-double, so that's pretty cool to see. Girls team, their latest win, I guess, was against West Central with break and won pretty handily. Mackenzie C is putting an excellent season together there too, averaging 23.5, almost averaging 23.5 points. I think she tied the school record and then was like 2 points short of beating it in Wapsie, and she got pulled in like the third quarter sometime. So I would be pretty shocked if the all-time, you know, like the most points in a game doesn't say Mackenzie C at some point here in the next couple of years. So kudos to her. Yeah, sophomore. So she's got 2 more years to kind of figure, or even yet this year, who knows. So she's already sniffed it twice. Cool thing for the wrestling team the other night, the JV went 6-0 down in Grundy Center, which was really, really cool. You know, they're kind of had their ups and downs through the season, but it's nice to when you have a bright spot like that to see some success. And then I listed a few of the wrestlers that have winning records there below. Nolan Lamfer is a senior and having a pretty good season, and Ian Plenworth is the other one that's got a winning record. Girls wrestling, as you can see, Riley Hartman is doing very well. Jalen Cron as well. All you know, having some success. And then we got 11 girls out for middle school wrestling this year. And last year, I think we had 3 after I talked to Brock Sorensen, our head coach, and he said none of those 3 made it very far into the season. So we had to cancel our first middle school girls meet, but right now we're still sitting at 11, so that's a really good sign. And they go to Postville, I think, tomorrow. Thursday? Something like that. Middle school boys is getting going. They've got really strong numbers, which is awesome. Concessions continuing to just try to put good things out there for people to purchase when they come to visit us and try to right our ship, financially speaking. And then the band trip just got back to Florida. They do that every 4 years. Sounds like they had a great time. I talked to Corey McBride, I think it was 2 nights before we came back from school, and he's like, yeah, you know, I'll be back tomorrow night at 9, and it was 7 p.m. at night. So I did a little math there, and it's like 26 hours on a charter bus with a bunch of high school kids. It's probably not the best way to end break for him, but I think it went well, and I think they had a really good time. And then I linked, there's a long list of archery results if you'd like to peruse that at your leisure from our archery team.
questions? Okay, thank you. Ms. Jacobs.
All right, so we've had not a ton of time with kids back in the classroom, but there's still plenty that we've gotten done in our time. First, we are gearing up for our Great Kindness Challenge that kicks off next week. So if any of you all would like to participate, feel free to send me pictures, and I will make sure to share those with people. Monday is Flex Your Kindness, so I give you full permission to wear workout clothes to work next Monday. Feel free to have your bosses contact me if that's an issue. I'll give you a note. Maybe Erica can write us a doctor's note or something, you know. On Tuesday, we're gonna sock them with kindness, so feel free to wear some silly socks. On Wednesday, we're never too old for kindness, so feel free to dress up like an elderly person. Some of us have that covered already, though, you know. On Thursday, we can let our kindness shine. So wear your brightest, shiniest, or neon colored clothes. And on Friday, we're going to team up for kindness. So wear some sports themed clothing. So that'll be next week. So check out Facebook for some fun social media posts and some other promotional things that we're going to do to spread the word about Kindness Week. On the healthy side of things, at the beginning of the year, I talked about how we're going to put a focus on SEL, that social emotional learning at the elementaries. And so just an update there. Things are going well. We're doing them still every single day. And as I talked about then, every day has a theme. So like Wednesdays what would have been last week if we had school was Wellness Wednesday. And the example here is like candle breathing. So you would take in a deep breath, and then let it out slowly. So you're imagining that you have a candle in front of you and you're trying to blow it out, but just make it flicker a little bit so that way it kind of comes back to life, if that makes sense. So just a calming breathing technique for students. So various things depending on the day. I got a lot of cards today for our Thankful Tuesday, or Think About It Tuesday. And it was a gratitude exercise where kids just need to write a thank you card to different adults in the building. So it's really cool to see the different things in practice. And then finally, on the awesome side of things, we had our Edge Awards today for Dependable. And you can see our little Husky students up there at the top, and then our first grade students there at the bottom who received some of those awards. So we have those throughout the rest of this week. And again, keep an eye out on social media for their cute little faces and being so proud of themselves for showing that they can do the right things.
No shortage of alliteration going on at Winsburg.
Never. Never. I really like alliteration. No. Only because you're making me. Actually, a terrible spelling.
Any questions? Thank you. We'll move on to Ms. Adams.
We have been beyond busy this round. We've had 15-ish, and I say ish because some of them started before winter break and some of them are going open enrollments to online. We've had 14 in-district transfers. With all of that, we do intake meetings. We just aren't having kids coming in. We want them to know the expectations. We want them to know what's going to take place when you move to the online setting. So with every one of those, it's time consuming, but it helps the kids be more successful. We also had 3 kids that met their graduation requirements. They put in for early graduation and they successfully did it, which is very exciting. We did just approve another one tonight who will be, she's a student from Diagonal, Iowa, if you're familiar with where that is, way down south by the Missouri border, south of Des Moines. She will graduate at the end of her junior year. She sent me an email and said, these are the courses I need, correct? I said, yep. She sent me a timeline of breaking her semester into chunks and which classes in each chunk. She wants to get into auto body work. That's all she wants to do. So she wants her diploma in hand so she can register for classes, which is super exciting that she's going to do that at the end of her junior year by pushing herself through. Our staff is really getting into the ins and outs of Edgenuity. I have been working a little bit with the principal in Dubuque, who has learned how to modify assignments in Edgenuity. We want the work the students are doing to be meaningful. And so being able to put in science labs that they can do, putting in writing assignments that are more purposeful, math assignments that are more relative to real world areas. So they're working on tweaking some of the classes to make them more meaningful. Our Zoom started again today, which the kids have been ready. Our middle schoolers have been antsing to get back into routine, so it was exciting to get them back. We also, as part of our ESSA designation, I am now working in a PLC with the virtual principal from Iowa City Schools, their AEA staff, my AEA staff, and then our state designee, so it's exciting to be working with somebody in the same realm as I am right now. We're working on bringing some different things back to both of our staff. Odyssey, we've had some major changes take place. As you know, we took a student from another district. That student has gone above and beyond meeting his goals. He has started his transition back to his home district. He is only with us half days right now, and then he goes back to his home district. It's bittersweet, because we would take 1 million of him. He's been a great addition, but it just shows that given the time, they're able to make some changes. We have one of our 6th graders now going to the middle school for 3 courses instead of 2. We have an 8th grader who is transitioning back to the middle school for all but 1 course. That has also been exciting. Mrs. Dudley's been putting in a lot of time working with our older kids. They want to get jobs. And they didn't realize there's kind of more to filling out a job application than just slapping your name on it. So they're starting to get that skill of how to fill out a job application. What do I do when I get past that application? One of the Odyssey kids actually got hired from his application, went in for an interview and was hired. So we're starting to see some of that planning that was put into place. What we want to see with Odyssey are kids getting reintegrated back in the classroom, becoming working parts of our community, and basic life skills. We're going to be working with another one on learning how to do laundry, so that he has that opportunity to be successful also. So a little busy.
For context, in my career, I've only seen 1 student ever transition back from a behavior program back into integration into a partial day with their gen ed peers, and it failed. Most of those kids exit through dropout. Very few of them graduate. So the fact that we're getting a kid back to his home district, that we have a kid almost ready to go back and completely reintegrate, and we have students that are spending, part of their day, their gen ed peers, is absolutely incredible.
And it's a testament to both staffs, whatever building they're going back to. So the staff at Odyssey that's working to help them build their skills, but then the staff at the middle school who is saying, hey, whatever happened in the past is in the past, and we get to move forward with the new relationship. So it's a testament on everybody's part.
Any questions? Thank you. Move on to Mr. Hurley.
All right, just a couple comments following up with Ms. Adams there. I've had the opportunity to sit in on probably 4 or 5 of her informational parent/student intake meetings, and it's been really good to see because the students' parents, they don't leave that meeting with any questions. Pretty much everything is laid out in front of them. So I think that's a big part of the success rate when students do make the transition to online programming. Just that, it's very transparent communication, and they kind of know what the expectations are going in. So I appreciate that. Transparency, Ms. Adams, is students look into that, and some have decided to go forward with it, and some have decided, okay, this is not for us. Right, exactly. So it makes the decision-making process a lot easier. also kind of that partnership with the students that are reintegrating back in. I really appreciate the working relationship that we have with the Odyssey program there. Very open communication between the buildings, so it definitely helps those transitions and again helps those students be successful. So hats off to the staff over there for that. Okay, able to get back to school today. Wasn't a full day, but we did start our second semester. So great to see students back in the building. Was a good day, so hopefully that's a sign of good things to come as we kind of catapult into the second half of the school year here. I'm going to talk a little bit about the PBIS data. We've got December was a good month as far as referrals are concerned. October, we kind of spiked a little bit. We talked about that a couple months ago. Went down last month, and then we continued to go down just a little bit this month as well. And virtually the same amount of referrals that was present at this point last year as well. So all in all, pretty good numbers there. Looking at that, attendance-wise. We were at about 90%, a little over 90% attendance rate, which is down from our previous months, but compared to last year was a little bit better. So kind of nature of the beast, you get to this time of the year and attendance just goes down a little bit, more sickness obviously and things of that nature. So not too bad, all things considered there. Celebration Day, we had that on right before Christmas break, our PBIS Celebration Day. We had, again, the opportunity in the morning for students that were behind on some schoolwork. They had an opportunity to work on completing some of that and getting it turned in. So hats off to the staff for getting information to the team as far as who's missing what, and then working with those students to help get that work turned in and completed, and then teachers in turn grading that as well. And then we had activities in the morning for kids to take part in. If they did have their work done, they were able to take part in that. And then in the afternoon, we got back to our winter break lead into variety show. And that was really cool to see a lot of students that maybe sometimes don't come out of their shell. They had the guts to get up in front of a big crowd and really knocked it out of the park as far as their performance was concerned. So we had about 15 performances that day. The individuals that performed and the audience had a really good time with that. So that was a great event. That time of year, the Student Council also did a door decorating contest. The theme was Christmas Gone Wrong. There was a 7th and 8th grade division, and Miss Grumman's group won that. And the 5th, 6th division was won by Miss Clement's homeroom. And there is a link there. You guys can take a look at the slideshow of the entries as far as the classrooms were concerned. Middle school holiday candy cane dance that same day. It was a busy time right before Christmas. Miss Stang and the prom committee did sponsored another dance for our students. About 60, 70 students came and attended that. There were 10 to 12 high school students that came and helped supervise and set up and tear down. So again, just a nice event for our students to kind of lead into winter break. Winter concert was held on the 19th. The chorus concert, I kind of gave a rundown of the band concert before, but Miss Grumman had their chorus concert on the 19th. 4 different choirs basically performed 7 different pieces that night. It was really a great show, well attended, and they were treated to some really fine music. We did have a student teacher there. Gianna Boer was able to get up and conduct her first performance in front of the crowd, so that was pretty cool as well. Middle school activities, we had kind of a lull recently between the early season winter sports and the second season winter sports, and we've got boys basketball and girls wrestling, which Mr. Kennan talked about a little bit. They're practicing now and just getting rolling with their events as well. So a lot of busy days ahead for them, but it's real cool to see those numbers continue to increase as far as participation is concerned. So hopefully we keep going the right direction there. Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Hadley's not here.
Sure, Hadley's, yep, he's at National Guard training.
We'll move on to item 13, discussion and comments by board members. Taylor?
I got nothing.
Joe? Nate? Erica? Same here. Upcoming events, meetings, and announcements. January 25th, we have our new board member orientation, that's here, correct?
Yep, it's the Rams building, in ICC. There'll be supper provided, and pretty much everybody's signed up but Joe, is that right? So you were able to go? So that's next Thursday. I think it starts at 5:30. I think it'll go till 8 or 8:30. There will be school board members from all over the region, so I would expect 30 to 40 people there. So you'll be able to network and meet other folks and meet other people. So kind of a cool event. Lucky we get a host, so it's travel very far.
Yes. And then our next meeting will be the 20th.
Which is a Tuesday. That's the day after President's Day.
Now, if I could get someone to make a motion to send us into closed session.
I move that we hold a closed session as authorized by section 21.51J of the Open Meetings Law to review or to discuss the purchase or sale of particular real estate only where premature disclosure could be reasonably expected to increase the price the governmental body would have to pay for that property or reduce the price that the governmental body would receive for that property.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Joe made the motion and Erica seconded to go make a motion to go into closed session. We have to do roll call, do
Yeah, I think it's a closed session.
Taylor?
What do I just?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Nate? Erica?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, we're in closed session. All right, and